I am dreading this just a bit.
Huh? What? Directed DVD. Hello and welcome to Think
So,
Before Linklater, the podcast where we talk about Richard Linklater's filmography. Today we have a film which I personally found to be wonderful, engaging, and entertaining, Waking Life. So Maria, why do you hate
mm.
animation?
Why do you always do that? Why do you go for the jugular? Of course, I don't hate animation. What do you
So
mean?
Waking Life is
First of all, can we point? I actually like animation. That is not the problem with Waking Life, okay? But
No, you told me you never watch animation because you hate it, unless it's mass produced by the Disney company and thrown in the faces
mm,
of children.
show me the receipts, and then we'll discuss. I
But
definitely never watched a movie with this technology.
Waking Life, or what if Richard Linklater made Inception? Waking Life, or Motion Sickness, the feature film. Waking Life, the reason Juice WRLD OD'd. Waking Life, acid as described by someone who has never done acid. Waking Life, or Slacker, Folly Adieu. Waking Life, or Once in a Lifetime if it wasn't catchy. I have more. I have lots more. I spent a long portion of this film coming up with those. Um, Waking
Yeah.
Life, or here's a bunch of lecturers I half listened to. So it's 100 minutes.
Yeah.
It's all a dream. It's all rotoscoped, which is an animation technique where you film live footage and then you kind of trace over it and draw it. It's been around for a very long time. This is one of the first times it was done digitally. I would argue there's no real reason for it to be animated. I don't know what you think about that, but they didn't really use the animation to its full potential.
Potentially.
Like occasionally someone will be saying like humans are water and the image will show
No.
like a person filling up with water. Or they'll go, I
Yeah.
say the word love and it comes out of my mouth and it goes into your ear and it shows the word like going
Yeah.
out of a mouth and into an ear. Otherwise it is just kind of like somebody's kind of badly drawn over a film.
Yes. At the same time, we do see kind of slightly distinct styles from scene to scene.
Hmm.
So sometimes that helps or adds to a particular scene because of its distinction from the previous ones, which you can't do if it's not animation, right? But it felt like it might have been one of those choices where why is it necessary?
Well, I guess the argument would be it adds to the unreality of the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
surrealism.
But what did you say about motion sickness? All the time, it was like, oh my God, I felt motion sickness throughout the movie because of the kind of animation and movement they were doing. It got to me.
Maybe he was seasick because he gets on a car that's a boat at the start.
Both, yeah.
For that bit, I
So
wrote down, "Who is this fucking pirate?" That was my only comment on that
that
scene.
was your only pony. I just wrote outside the lines drawing.
Yeah,
Boat taxi.
boat taxi.
I mean, to be fair, taxis you should book. A boat one seems like a fun one, and I think it's a reference to Slacker. Oh,
He gets on
him
a
being picked
taxi.
up from the airport, yeah, by a taxi, and the
But
driver is telling him
well, no,
that
the
life is
driver
a
doesn't say
dream.
anything. He just talks at the driver about a dream that he had.
Yeah, exactly. So we start off with the dreams as well. Though.
So you're saying this is a prequel to Slacker?
No, no, I'm just saying it's a reference to Slacker. Like the first scene of Slacker was similar.
Hmm.
Mm,
So yeah,
so you don't agree?
the film mostly features, I guess, kind of people that Richard Linklater just met and thought were interesting. The main
Hmm.
character is the little kid from Dazed and Confused, Mitch.
Hmm.
The actor's called Wiley Wiggins. He doesn't do anything the entire film. I guess
And we barely,
it's his dream that we're following, but he kind of is just an observer and he even
yeah, he barely
references that.
knows even himself during. the whole movie. Like, I think didn't he realize what his name is or realize he doesn't know his name in the middle of the movie? I mean, who he is isn't really crucial to the plot, if there is a plot. There isn't. But anyway.
I would argue there's absolutely a plot. It ties in ideas of cultural unconsciousness, pre-Socratic philosophers, Zeno's paradox, Tibetan monks lighting themselves on fire.
Where did you get all these cultural references?
From the
I
film that
don't.
I actually watched because I
Okay.
didn't hate animation.
Okay. I think I just need to accept. I don't know. Okay, I just watched it, okay? Literally, like I stopped 5 minutes ago, and I'm beyond confused. So that this is coloring every sentiment I have
Maybe you're
instead of
still watching
explaining.
it, and this is all part
Yeah,
of the dream.
yeah, maybe it is a dream.
Check your
Or
digital
maybe
wristwatch.
I don't have a wristwatch.
Try turning the light on and off. That
Can
works
I
apparently.
just, like, I should have this in record. This week I broke my arm, and this movie hurt more than my arm breaking. Okay? Just,
It's a good review. Did they put you on any particularly strong painkillers?
I am on some kind of medication, but it's no effect whatsoever. Pain is still there, but I think it's mild medication.
I watched
Mhm.
the first half of this and then I paused it and waited until nighttime, took a sleeping pill, and then watched the second half of it. And
Did it change
no, I
the
just kept,
experience?
I was already kind of feeling like I wanted to fall asleep watching it. And then I was just, I guess it gave me something to do because I had to actively try and stay awake and
Okay.
not just watch it. But there's no plot.
Oh, thank you. You literally just argued.
There's no plot, man, but there are themes.
Yeah, teams, yes, I agree. There are teams, but definitely no plot. It's like Slack Arrow. Just one from one scene to the other
But
with
even looser in
semi,
a way, because in Slacker they were
yeah,
connected by location, and in this
location and reality.
it just kind of flits from
Hmm.
random scene to random scene.
Hmm.
Sometimes the main character, the dreamer, is in the scene, and sometimes it's just a scene of
Hmm.
something happening, and I guess
Yeah,
his vision is like the camera's vision, if that's what they're trying to do.
yes, I guess we don't really have that explained of where his consciousness goes when he's not in the scene, but that's what I assumed as well.
That's because nobody knows, man. Nobody knows what happens when we dream.
A
And the
lot of
plot,
quotes
which
from.
there definitely is a plot, is that he starts to gain
You can't
control
keep changing your
and
mind.
ah, it's dream logic, man.
Man. Mm.
He starts to learn about lucid dreaming and how to control his dream, and he realizes he's in a dream, and then by the end he wants to get out of the dream, and Richard Linklater appears and delivers a very long monologue while playing pinball, and then says "wake up," and then he wakes up, and if that's not a plot, I don't know what is.
Well, I think it has no plot. I think it's just one sequence after the other, barely making sense, strung along, and that means it has no plot in my books.
Well, I thought you'd like it because, of course, we get a reunion between the two main characters from Before Sunrise, Jesse and Celine.
I do like Jesse and Celine. And keep in mind, I've watched the other two movies, so I know what happens to Celine after the first movie. So I wasn't like, there they are. Now I know what happened. I already know what happened. So that did color my perspective. Also, I feel like if I didn't know what happened to Jesse and Celine, would be literally the worst outcome. Like them being in bed, having the same exact philosophical conversations like they did on day number one. Like if they're in bed together, they just be like a normal people, like have a normal conversation. Why are we talking like this in bed? It's like chillax. Now you're actually together. You can relax. Come on, just talk about work. or your friends or your mom or I don't know, but talk about normal stuff.
That would be terrible if he was just like, oh, did you forget to cancel the milk? Or did you feed the
No,
dog?
it wouldn't. It would be
Did
normal
you
couple life.
did you get the fuel? Did you fuel up the car last night, or shall I go in early and go to the petrol station on the way to work? No, they're talking about souls and the beauty of existence. And bro, do you ever think that creation is kind of like destruction in a way?
Yeah, and how reincarnation doesn't make sense.
So many fucking times in this film, someone says something like, they did this study or it was shown. I'm like, fucking give me
Hmm.
some sources, man. Anytime someone says
Yeah.
they did this study to me, I stop listening to them because they don't know what they're talking about. Same thing later
Mm.
on where there's a guy in a bar and he's writing a novel and she says, why are you writing a novel? Walk away from that guy. Do not talk to him.
And then he proceeds to say, it's not really a novel, it's a lot of moments, but because of that, it's literally the best book ever written. Like, self-important much, but okay.
That's the Bible, bro.
Yeah. But going back to Celine and Jesse, they do mention something that it is an actual real theory in social psychology, which is the idea that genetically we inherit cultural and social lessons so that babies don't necessarily need to learn all of like our social norms and behaviors directly from their parents, much like we get instinct. So they did get that from somewhere because I remember specifically reading about it, but I can't attest for any of the other studies that were discussed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Are
that
you
gets
okay,
into
Joe?
the nature versus it blew my mind, man, even more than the film. I think a lot of it is instinct. There's this thing called a Moro reflex that's present in babies where if you drop them backwards, they reach out with their arms, and that's because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
genetically programmed, if they're falling out of a tree, to grab onto the branch and stop themselves from falling. There is
Yeah, but
an idea there about how much is learned and how much is taught to us, I guess.
I forgot the name of it. Literally the first week of my master's. But basically, that sociality is not just learned, but also ingrained in our genes. So certain things we are already born in knowing. And language could be an example of that. So our understanding of language is a shared understanding. So our ability to know language and grasp the idea of language is something instinctual. It just so happens that then, depending on the culture I was raised, I will gravitate towards certain specific languages.
But is it not an element of like if you were better at learning languages and communicating with other members of your species, you are more likely to be successful with them and go on to have successful offspring? So it's
Yes, yes,
evolutionary.
precisely. So, yeah, yeah. It is, and that's the theory postulates that certain social, like basically humans need to be social, and we often think of our ability to be social as something cultural that we learn from the day we're born until we die. So the social rules, the how we navigate those dynamics is something that we get through nurture. But this theory also postulates that there are certain things which are instinctual, that we are born with innately, that help us be social. So it's a combination of nature and nurture. So yes, then evolutionarily speaking, we would have a selective process of ensuring that we keep those skills alive.
I just wish the film was about that and not about whatever it is about. Because yeah, it's all a dream, so it doesn't have to make sense. But a lot of the random things it cuts to are just don't add anything.
Yeah,
Like there's that guy in the jail cell
exactly.
who's talking about how
Uh-huh.
he's gonna
Who's just angry.
torture all his enemies. And he's red.
Mm-hmm.
He's drawn red because he's angry. Do you
Mm-hmm.
get it? Angry people
Angry.
are red.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a whole 3 minutes of the film.
Or the guy who sets himself on fire, and he starts off with because death and destruction are a normal thing in life, and then media makes it so that we are so accustomed to it, that we don't really change things and we pretend to do by voting. So this is my one act of showing that I am doing something about it. And then he burns himself alive, so therefore creating even more destruction, which will probably go on the news and desensitizing us even more. Anyway, but like, okay, that's a nice speech for 3 minutes, but what's the, like, give me a point to all of these snippets of conversations that are talking about, it seems like they're talking about a lot, but then because they are short, one-way conversations, because there's never really truly any dialogue. Like most of Linklater's ideas, they feel like shallow, one-dimensional. As this has been a commentary that keeps coming up every movie we see, of like, oh, it felt shallow, it felt one dimension, like there's no subtext, like it. And with Linklater, I feel you get that a lot of like, he thinks he's smart and he thinks, though he's the kind of person there. That's what I was thinking. Like, if you get a dinner party invite from him, you would be so excited because you think, and we're going to have these amazing conversations because he must be so smart and so cool. But then you go and you realize it's all like fuss over nothing. Like, we didn't really say anything. He just looks like he's cool and he thinks he's cool, but there's no real anything further than the first 3 minutes.
Are you calling my boy a poser?
I wouldn't use that word, but that's how it feels like. It's been happening too often now. Like, I'm hoping he has more substance to him, but he definitely isn't showing it in most of the movies we've seen.
I think there is an authenticity to it, especially coming out of the 90s, where there was this big drive towards irony and, postmodernism and being cool and not really saying what you mean. His films always strike me as very earnest, like he believes in them. Like maybe not Newton
Mm-hmm.
Boys because that was a big studio film, but this
Yeah.
definitely seems like he was trying to say something. He felt like he had to get this off his chest. I don't know what it was, but
That's it. Like, I get what you mean, and he definitely has a vision. Like, you see it in the way he creates things, that he is trying to say something that is very specific to his perspective. But when things remain at the first level of contact and they don't, because, and I understand, he chooses to have small snippets of conversations that keep rotating, right? Rather than have one in-depth topic discussed thoroughly for 2 hours. So, I mean, we don't get that. But so maybe we shouldn't be looking at the content of the message, because, as in his message maybe isn't in the content, but it's in the form of the content. Like, rather than looking at what people are actually saying as the message Linklater is trying to pass on, it's more of how he is manipulating these messages that is the real message. Am I making sense?
yeah. And God knows we don't have enough white, straight, privileged male art students having their voice out there, so we need another one. And Tibetan monks self-immolate, right? That's a real thing they've done in political protests. And it
Mm-hmm.
means a lot if you're a monk and you've dedicated your life to something and then you set yourself on fire for a political cause. If you're just a bored stoner,
Yeah,
then it's like, okay, great, nice one.
just
But the Dalai Lama says that it's perfectly acceptable for monks to set themselves on fire, just for the record.
and if the Dalai Lama says it, then we should all do it. That disclaimer, don't, okay?
Yeah, there are better ways to kill yourself, like suicide deaths.
Or let's not all unalive ourselves, okay? Let's just live until we die of natural causes. Or, I mean, if you watch this movie, you could die of a natural cause, but that's... So yes, I mean, definitely a lot of pretentiousness. So when it comes to delivering these pseudo profound messages, but they're all coming, most of them are coming from white males who are basically living a very privileged life.
One of
lives.
whom, by the way, is Alex Jones. Did you know that?
Who's Alex Jones?
He's the fake news guy. He
I
said
don't
that
know who
the
that is.
Sandy Hook shooting was like a massive cover up and a fraud and
Oh,
fake. And he was sued for billions of dollars. You'd know his face. He's like a fat American guy. He's always barbling on about how they put hormones in the water that make frogs gay.
let me look him up. Well, I don't know who he is, and I think he has skipped my radar, and I'm happy about that.
He's from Austin, Texas, which kind of ties into my
Ah,
theory, which isn't even the theory, it's just what happened. That Richard Linklater just found a load of people on the street and listened to them for a bit and said, "Can I record you?" And then
yeah,
put them in his film. That's what this
that
is.
sounds.
They're not actors, most of these people. They're professors or
Yes, yes,
musicians or just people. And doesn't
Mm-hmm.
that tie into the authenticity and the realness of it all?
Or the unrealness of it all, because it's
Oh,
all a dream, man.
can we not just have a holy moment?
Yes, let's have a holy moment.
No, I don't actually want to do
Are you not okay with awkward silences that last way too long
that.
on recorded media? Um,
Without any visual component. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But he makes an interesting point, doesn't he? He's like, we can't have a holy moment if we're trying to have a holy moment.
exactly.
Life is what
Because it's
happens to you
layered.
while you're doing other things. Isn't that
Because holy
beautiful?
moments are layered. There is you trying to live the holy moment, then me realizing that you are trying to live the holy moment. Just like a movie, man. It's like
Just
the real scene, but then the actor trying to portray that real scene.
I'm gonna cut
And then
out
we
the
all turn
laugh.
into a cloud.
They did all turn into a cloud. Yeah. They were clouds the whole time. That was a great twist. Kept me on my toes. I was wondering what other characters are going to turn out to be clouds, and they were all clouds.
I
We're all
didn't write
ants,
much,
man.
honestly.
We're all ants.
Yeah, we're all ends. Can we start with, oh, can we also mention the intro? Because in Newton Boys, we mentioned how much I disliked the intro,
Yes,
right? This one was the two kids playing that paper game. I forgot what the name is.
I didn't know what it was called because I was never a little girl, and I didn't even know what to Google to find what it was called. I
I forgot the name, but I
is it
played it 1,000 times.
is it a fortune teller?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know if that's the actual name, but it is. And it's played exactly like it is in the movie. Like you choose
And
numbers.
it's used all over the world without people necessarily
Yes.
being taught it. It's just something that's part of the cultural consciousness that pervades all of humanity. Isn't that a
Yep.
beautiful thing?
Yeah, it is. I genuinely think it is. And that again ties to what Jesse and Celine were saying about certain social things being instinctually already innately there rather than socially learned. But I had that was a cute intro. I liked the game. I liked the nostalgia of it. I liked that it was two children. And then of course if I never played it and it those philosophical answers ever came up. Mine were silly. But apparently in this game it was dreams are destiny.
Yeah.
Those are profound words for 7-year-olds or how old they were. Mine usually just said, "Oh, you will break your arm."
That was your
No,
destiny.
mine,
I think your friends just didn't
yeah,
like
that's
you. Were
cute.
they just cursing you?
No, no, no. Ours were like silly. You like what were they? Oh, you were very pretty. Oh, you have to eat yesterday's lunch. Right? They were stupid. They were children's thoughts. They weren't philosophical thoughts for sure. But it was cute, and I liked it as an intro. And then it cuts to him being on a train, waking up from a train, which again is a common thing with Linklater.
He loves his
See Jesse
trains.
doing that.
There was train
Um,
robbery in the Newton Boys. It's all connected.
yes.
It's all connected.
But so up until then I was fine, and then they moved to the boat taxi, and I realized what was going to happen, and like okay, I think I've had it, and then I had
This
another
is
hour
less
and
than
20
10,
minutes to
yeah,
watch.
that's less than 10 minutes into
Yeah,
the
yes,
film that you'd
yeah.
given up. Yeah,
Yep, I lost hope. As I said the last episode, and as we mentioned, I do walk into these things with a bit of optimism every time. Lost it pretty early on with this one. I think it's so far gone that I'm even dreading watching the next one. That is how far off the optimism is.
why do you drive a boat? Well, because I'm always departing and I'm always arriving. Don't get in that guy's car.
Yep,
Get a
yep.
proper taxi. I
And
guess.
like, and no matter the mode of transport, we're all arriving and departing. Like that is the whole point of having a mode of transportation. Like, what are you saying?
It's the dream to have a boat that kind of has car vibes to it.
Yeah,
Well, no, the
uh,
opposite way around. The car with boat vibes. See,
yeah.
the lines are blurred. I don't even know which way around it was.
I think it's a dream for again white middle-aged men. I don't think it's a dream for all of us, to be fair.
Yeah,
My
and
dad used to
as a woman,
like amphibian
you
cars.
you wouldn't just get into a random guy's car when if he was dressed as a pirate, would you?
Of course I would.
Okay.
Take your time. Start over again, Bob.
Humphrey, what are you saying?
What are you saying, Jeff?
What are you saying, Squad? What are you saying?
What are you saying?
What are you saying? I don't know what he's saying.
What are you saying? What are you saying? Nigel, what are you saying?
I'm saying groovy.
I wish I had vivid dreams. Maybe then this movie would be more relatable. But I tend to either not dream or completely forget like 90% of my dream. So definitely no experience with lucid dreaming or vivid dreaming or any kind of dreaming. So maybe if I had those kinds of experiences, I would relate to it more. But for me, it's like gibberish.
I was gonna ask about that because I've not been drinking from coming up in a month now, and I have been having vivid dreams. One I get a lot is the one where you keep waking up and then you're still in the dream, and you know you're still in the dream, and then you wake up and you're still in the
Mm.
dream. That's really freaky.
I used to dream a lot when I was a child. I no longer do that. But when I was a kid, I used to have a lot of vivid dreams, and most of them were scary. The one you're mentioning, I had quite a lot of thinking I'm awake, but I'm not. I'm still dreaming. I think it honestly has to do with the fact that my body is more tired, so it rests deeper. I
Yeah, you
guess.
get that. I'm unemployed at the moment, so I sometimes wake up and the dream I was having was so good that I go back to sleep just so I can try and keep going with it
Yeah.
and find out what
Uh,
happens.
Again, doesn't happen often, but when it does, and when you actually go back to sleep and it actually continues, top tier.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know what this functions as really. All the ideas here, I think he already kind of expressed in Slacker. The animation technique might be kind of interesting if it was telling a story, but I don't know. I was thinking of the Spider-Verse movies, which you definitely haven't seen, so don't worry about it. But they're groundbreaking in their animation techniques and the way they combine different animation styles, and they look really visually interesting and cool.
Hmm.
But they also tell a really good story, and they make that part of the story, and they make it there's
Hmm.
something to hold on to.
Hmm.
I think this is all themes and ideas. You need like a grounding in
Yeah,
character or
something,
plot.
something that holds it all together. I agree. Also, it felt like Linklater was interested in creating an animation, but didn't know enough about it and just went ahead and did it without actually considering why this would be particularly suited for animation or how he can explore animation in a different way to suit the movie. So it felt almost like a kid of like, oh, I want to paint this rather than capture it. So
It felt very much like when I was 11 and I found out the computers at school had Photoshop on them, and you just like put loads of filters
yeah,
and stuff on
not
pictures.
because there's a purpose, but because this is the new thing to try out and it's fun. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
As a showreel for this animation software, it's kind of interesting. I like the way the animation varies. It doesn't do it enough though, I don't think.
No,
I
there's slight distinctions, but not huge
but
ones.
definitely that bit where he was like going in the tunnel under the road and he meets the woman and bumps into her, and then they're both
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
and they're in like two pools of light and then a complete
Hmm.
black void around them. That was quite
Yes, yes.
interesting
Interesting.
visually.
Even yeah, even their facial features shifted to show kind of a shift in conversation. No, I get, I mean, there were certain distinctions that added to the scenes, as I said before, but I think overall, I probably would have gotten the same messages out of the movie if this was done just through a normal camera without any animation edited on top. So I don't think it added much more to the conversation or the content of the movie.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah, I keep wondering why it was a choice.
well, how else would they have done the talking monkey?
There are many different ways.
Are there?
No, but I
Of
mean,
course, of
Planet
course.
of the Apes.
That was revolutionary technology, and that was 10 years later.
Exactly, but you understand the point of using it. We didn't just use it to have it done. Like the story needed it, and it complements each other.
Well, how else are we supposed to know it's a dream if they're not all colored in?
Have you seen Inception?
I did think of a really good way they could distinguish whether they were in a dream or not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some kind of accessory they could add to their outfits. So
Oh,
when they were
wow.
in a dream, they could have one thing, and when they weren't in a dream, they could have another thing. So
I can guess what it is.
yeah, I think it would be a really good idea if they wore these light hats to show they were in a dream. And
Yeah,
then
these light cowboy hats. Yeah, yeah, that
that's all you
makes
need,
sense.
really. You could save the animation
And this,
budget, and then you know they're in a dream if they're wearing these light hats.
and then if the hat blows away, boom,
You
they're
wake
dead.
up. You wake up, yeah.
You're the,
There's so
they
little to
beat you to
talk
it.
about with this film.
It's not about what is being said, but it's how it's being said that we need to discuss. And what does Linklater get out of giving us these short clips of semi-intellectual conversations with random people without any specific reasoning or motivation behind the choices? Like, what is Linklater trying to tell us about these choices?
I don't know. It's not supposed to be funny. It doesn't really add to the absurdity and the idea that it's all a dream because you get that after the fifth character starts talking
Yeah.
about how it's a dream. To give an example, there's a bit maybe half an hour in where it's a guy at a bar and he's telling this story about how he was in the desert at a gas station and he saw a guy in a car and the guy ran at him and he took a gun and he shot him. And then he says, "That's why I carried his gun." And he pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, "How do you know it still works?" And he goes, "Well, I'll test it." And shoots the guy. And then the guy shoots him. And then it's
Hmm.
over. And other than to make it feel more dreamlike and nonsensical, there's no reason for that entire sequence.
No.
Is it just
Yeah.
weirdness for
It's,
weirdness' sake, or
or is it maybe like Linklater just putting a bunch of things together so that it's completely a subjective experience. It's not him trying to shove a message down our throat. It's literally me building the message from what I take from whatever is happening on the movie. I take from it whatever I want and I make up my own narrative about it, my own idea about it based on my own perspective rather than him dictating the narrative and therefore the messaging.
yeah, but the point he's making is the same shit he's been saying since Slacker, which is like there are only two political parties, they're both sides of the same coin. It's just nothing. Oh, you're watching a movie,
Yeah,
but you're watching someone watch a movie. So all I'm
yeah,
saying
even those
is
TV scenes.
no one tell Richard Linklater about The Matrix, because if he watches that, he's gonna make a 10 times more pretentious film. No one tell him
Yeah,
about
I'm sure
Plato's
Richard.
cave. We need to hide these things from him.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'm sure he hasn't heard of them.
Yeah,
But okay, I think there is though a conversation to be had of what is the objective idea behind the movie. Is it this conversation about reality versus dream state, or as I'm arguing that there is no objective truth in here, just whatever the viewer sees. I genuinely think it subverts the idea of a movie of this is the director's chance of giving you his version of the world and it being completely up to the audience and whatever the audience makes of it.
I don't know. I feel like he is trying to say something, and it comes across almost as judgy. It's like there aren't enough dreamers in the world, you know? So many people are automatic and going about their routines and their daily lives, and they're not looking at the beauty that's all around them. They're not intellectual, they're not philosophers, they're not deep thinkers, they're just surface level.
Yeah, but then he gives us a movie that is surface level.
It's like a guy who
Okay,
thinks
I
he's
get it.
enlightened, but isn't.
But maybe he is saying, listen, we do have these deep thoughts, but we never do anything about them. Look at my movie.
But he's not doing
Maybe.
anything about them either. He's just made a
Exactly.
stupid
He's just
movie.
yeah, but maybe that is part of it, of creating frustration in the lack of depth. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because of the podcast, but we definitely delve into deeper conversations because of the movies that he makes. And maybe it has the same effect on people, even if they're not doing a podcast, of watching a Linklater movie and then grabbing onto certain topics and having deeper conversations that make more sense, that actually are more relatable to real life situations. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe he is pointing at the fact that a lot of us go through life not delving deeply into stuff by giving us movies that don't delve deeply into stuff. Or maybe I'm giving him too much credit, and that is the audacity of a white man to give me pseudo-pretentious bullshit as some sort of Bible.
Sorry about
I know,
the patriarchy.
except you're not sorry.
I am sorry.
I'm joking. It's not on you, Joe.
Thank you for absolving me, as is your right. You know, there was this soap opera about a hospital called St. Elsewhere, and in the final episode, they revealed that all the soap opera drama was actually going on inside the head of an autistic boy playing with a snow globe. And they zoomed out on the hospital, and it was a snow globe that an autistic boy was playing with. I kind of expected this film to do that at the end and just zoom out and be like, I don't know.
Wasn't it the plot of Lost as well?
No, I think they're all in heaven.
Okay, but it kind of like it wasn't all real. That would mean an actual plot, though, Joe.
I found it very hard to concentrate on. Like with Slacker, there's nothing to kind of latch onto.
And in fact, I mean, one of the we keep mentioning this, and this time I'm going to say it. It should have been way shorter. We got the message within the first 15 minutes. But one of the biggest issues for me with this movie was that although I was trying really hard to keep focused from one scene to the next, I did lose interest because how much of the same thing can I keep seeing over and over? Eventually, it all amalgamates into one. There's not enough distinction. I can't say that one particular scene was much better than any other. In reality, they all became one generic thing.
I don't know if the idea is just to kind of wear you down to the point where it just starts to wash over you and you start absorbing it on some kind of unconscious level. I don't know. I just heard a lot of vague references to ideas that I've heard expressed a lot more eloquently as part of a larger story that I actually was enjoying and engaged with. Someone talks about thesis as ship and like the idea that all the cells in your body regenerate every 7 years or whatever.
Yes.
So we're not physically the same person, but we still think of ourselves as the same person. Interesting idea. They didn't explore that.
Exactly. Yeah, that is the frustration. That there are a lot of interesting ideas. Each one could have been an amazing movie if you picked that idea and created a plot around it. But no, this is just like skipping rocks.
Navel gazing. And the idea that we don't really have free will and what we think of as consciousness
Yeah.
and decision making is just a series of extremely elaborate and complicated chemical reactions.
And I liked the guy who was talking about the fact that oftentimes in older philosophies like Kant or Saint Thomas Aquinas, the conversation was always free will versus God, and what is determined by us versus what is determined by God. Now in modern science, it's no longer God, but it's physical laws that determine. But we lost the philosophical conversation of it might be God or it might be physical laws, but where is free will? Like the conversation has gone, is it God or is it physical laws that determine us? But conversation around free will has been sort of lost. Again, that could have been an amazing movie.
And I like the bit as well where he's realized he's in a dream and he's talking to that character under the bridge and he's saying, "What's it like to be a character in my dream?" That could have been an interesting idea. Like a guy having a dream, realizes he's in a dream and starts to like explore the dreamscape and see the limits and the
Yes.
possibilities of what he can do and how he can affect the
Yeah.
world around him and talk to these own manifestations of his subconscious. That doesn't happen. He talks to
No.
one guy who's like, "Yeah, dreams are pretty cool, man. Once you learn to lucid dream, you can have all kinds of sex." And then he just
Yeah.
leaves and another scene starts. I just can't with this film.
No, and I think I wrote plenty of times while watching mine. I lost my will to live, to love, to laugh.
Oh yeah, was that a Freudian slip or did you genuinely mean I lost my will to
No, that
love?
was no, it was a Freudian slip. I meant to say I lost my will to live, but
I want
typed love instead. But to be fair, what is love? What is life without love? And what is love without life?
you sound like a character
Ex-
from this
Yeah,
fucking movie.
exactly.
I think he gets a pass for Slacker because it's his first major film. But come on, man. You've been making films for 8 years. Bring some new ideas to the table.
Yeah, and whatever message you were trying to get across, you already got it there through Slacker. Because it's the same thing, just an animation. Whatever you were trying to say the first time, we got it. Now move on to giving us something different, something more developed, more mature.
I think that is genuinely the final word on the film. I don't know what else to say, man.
Shall we rate it?
No, we got to talk more about
Okay.
this shit. Do you believe in free will? Yeah, I believe in the free will not to watch this film,
Watch the movie.
bitch. And how much of your life is automatic and routine, and how much do you consciously think about? Like when you wake up in the morning, do you think about what you're gonna do, or do you just kind of do a routine?
Is that a genuine question?
Yeah.
I think I am a kind of routine person. There are certain things I always do the same way. So when I wake up, go to the bathroom, then feed Ella, and then I start getting dressed. So, but then there is a lot of free will in that. There's no real. I choose to do those things.
Do you though?
I do, yes, I do, because sometimes I switch it up. And again, I would say probably the most predictable time of the day is those first 10 minutes, then everything else is not very predictable. So,
Well, maybe you needed to watch a film like this to remind you not to get too far lost in routine, to not be an ant.
I think you're the opposite. Oh, you have no routine. You don't love routine.
Not currently. I do when I'm working.
But do you like it? Feels like you don't.
No, it's horrible.
No, I don't think routine is horrible. Like certain things, when you don't have to think about them, then you can think about other things.
No, I like to live unpredictably.
Steve Jobs wore the same clothes every day so that he could be as creative as possible when it comes to actual shit, not picking clothes. I have a manager at work who does the same. She wears the same exact clothes every day. And I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that she has to make 1,000 choices and decisions every day.
That's crazy. I could never live like that.
Yeah, I'm not related to clothes, but certain things bring stability, like having a cup of coffee every morning. Isn't that nice?
I mean, yeah. Okay, fine. I love routine.
No, but certain things are nice if they're there every day.
But people who like meal prep on a Sunday and then eat the same thing, you
Yeah.
gotta find
And
little joys, little pleasures in life, I guess.
yes, I agree. I'm currently doing that, and that's not fun. I get it. I do it because I have no time. Routine helps you also when you are so busy, but it's not as fun. No, definitely. That is the whole point of routine. It's boring.
Well, I'm very sorry for wasting 100 minutes watching this film. I
And
mean,
I wonder, like, what is worse, if like to listen to the podcast about horrible movie or watching the horrible movie in the first place?
well, when I used to run a bad film society, I did find that there were films that were so dull that they had no enjoyment to them whatsoever. And there were films that were so stupidly bad that they were fun to watch with
Yeah,
people. And I
yeah,
think this
you're
definitely
right.
falls into the camp of just being dull. Do you know the bean in Chicago? The
Oh, the silver. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
big
yeah.
sculpture. I was
Of
so
course,
bored
films
watching
about
this
Chicago.
movie that I paused it and I started looking up construction and maintenance on the bean. And it was quite interesting. They wash it with Windex twice a day, and then it gets
Wow, Windex.
a full clean
I'm
annually.
wow.
And people try and
Do
carve
they
things
have a
into it and
collaboration or
fix it.
contract with Windex in that sense?
I didn't do a huge amount of research. It was more
The fact
interesting.
that you had to Google that, and it was more interesting than a movie.
And I read the
And I will say it
essay
again.
by Philip K. Dick that he talks about.
Was it more interesting?
The whole thing is what he talks about in the film, right? That he wrote a book and then he met people who resembled the characters in
Yeah.
his book, and then
hmm
some of the plot elements resembled part of the
Real life.
Bible. It's like, yeah, but they're not that good ideas. You might have heard of it in some other context and not realize you did. Or you might
Yeah,
have
true.
just thought of a similar idea. Like parallel thinking is a very real thing that exists, and it's not
Yes.
due to some kind of spirituality or cosmic connectedness. It's just something that happens when you get 7 billion people and you put them on a planet together.
Yeah. Or will all in 50 AD.
We're all in 50 AD. We're an autistic kid's dream of a snow globe.
And why can I ask why autistic?
Because that's what it was in the
Was it
show. I didn't write
necessary?
the show. It was the 80s. They didn't
But was
understand
it
autism.
necessary?
I've never seen the show. I just know it as a cultural reference.
That is not the reality for 99.9% of people, okay?
Speaking as the one of us who's further along the spectrum than the other one,
I don't
I
think
don't
I am
think
on
you
the
get to
spectrum.
autism.
Fair enough.
Explain to me.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. But I do work with adults who have autism on a weekly basis. So I know that there are many different ways that the AACD shows up. Not all of it falls under the same symptomology.
But talking about representation, everyone in this film is a person of color.
Ha 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 ha. Because life is a box of crayons.
I thought that was good. I laughed when I wrote that
Yeah,
down.
it was. Of course you laughed. You wrote that down. Yeah, everyone is a person of color in this movie.
I feel
Yeah.
like if I'd never done drugs, I'd think this film would be what drugs were like, or this film would be great to watch on drugs. I can't think of anything worse than being high and watching this film, because I would just be so bored.
So bored, and my mind would drift off.
I wouldn't be like listening to them go like the thesis is ship thing and go,
No.
whoa. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know.
And it's like it goes too slow. It's like my brain and the movie are at two different speeds.
I'd feel like I wasn't understanding it because I was too high, but actually there just wasn't anything to understand.
True. I speak like someone that has used drugs. I've barely touched any drugs, okay, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
So, Linklater staples. We said there's a lot of trains in it. There's a lot of random people he just found on the street. They're all kind of from Austin, Texas. So there's the whole Texan influence. Alex Jones is from Austin, Texas. It's got all these philosophical beats. It kind of seems like it happens in real time, in dream time. Didn't make a lot of money. Didn't make any money. but you wouldn't really expect it to be honest.
No, but surprisingly, it has good ratings.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like,
Part of the reason it looks so weird is because the whole film's in 12 frames per second instead of the usual 24 frames per second.
mhm,
So it seems a bit
that's fun.
jerky at times.
Yeah.
And I guess that cut down on animation time and costs.
Mhm.
A lot of the issues they have these days with animation is they're trying to crank these products out, and there's a lot of crunch going on where people
Yeah.
are under really tight deadlines. But it's not like anyone was
Yeah.
sitting going, "Oh, I can't wait for Waking Life to come out." So I
No.
think it would have cost more if they'd rushed it, but it basically was shot over a few weeks, and then
Uh-huh.
it took about a year and a half for them to animate it. Murray is actively yawning.
I'm so sorry. I think it's more related to hunger than tiredness. I'm so sorry. It's true. I'm trying to stop myself. Um. So I don't know. How do you interpret the fact that it wasn't like was it rushed or not?
No, I don't think
I
it was
think it
rushed
was
at
more
all.
related to cost. So
I think there's maybe an element of Linklater being burnt by the experience of making the Newton Boys and thinking, I'm just gonna make something that's me, 100% me. And as I said
mhm,
earlier, it is genuine, earnest, and authentic. Those are th good qualities of this film.
yeah,
It's one
yeah, it
person's
is his.
vision. It's a piece
Hmm.
of art. It might be bad art, uninteresting art, but it is art.
Yeah,
And I think that's a good thing.
and it's definitely his point of view. No one else's.
I think some of these professors and philosophers he just kind of listened to for a bit and liked what they were saying, so he just got them to
Yeah,
monologue.
but I mean, the way he presented them isn't documentary style, or it's his vision of how he
Mm.
presents things. It's very clear that no one else wrote this, no one else made those choices. It was purely him.
But having said all that and trying to be as positive as possible, I gotta go stinker for this.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's not even a question or a debate. Basically said it without saying it since the first minute.
I'd maybe be more
It doesn't
favorable
really make you,
if they were wearing light hats, but they weren't, so didn't even learn his own
but it
lesson.
doesn't make you really think.
No,
I think it does. It has the opposite effect of almost like putting you in a dream state in itself. You just let it wash over you rather than try to mentally engage with it. Again, it lacks maturity, it lacks depth. We know that he has grown since Laker, but we don't really see it.
and I think I talked to you a little bit about a show called Undone that uses this rotoscoping technique,
Hmm.
and that tells a really interesting story and uses the rotoscoping thing as part of telling that story, and it enhances it. There's narrative, there's something to it. This is just a gimmick. And
Yeah.
maybe as a show reel for this piece of software, it's good in that respect. Someone else could use this technology, this software, and make something good with it. But this does
Mhm.
just kind of show off the
Doesn't.
features of what it could do. It's like if you download Windows Movie Maker, it comes with like a bunch of stock footage that you can then like play around with. That's basically what's been done here.
Oh, you took me back with Windows Movie Maker.
I guess the question then is, what do you want to do next on our amazing journey? I think I'm achieving my goal of making you realize you hate Richard Linklater.
Was this your goal all along?
Yeah, that's the secret goal.
I'm sure we'll watch the next one, but I know the one after it is School of Rock, right?
Yeah, so that would be the debate because the next one is based on a play. It's called Tape. So we could cover that, or we could, as a palate cleanser,
No,
just go straight to School of Rock.
no, I think we've stuck to the idea of we'll do every movie. No, I think we should still continue on that trajectory, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
does look kind of
hoping for
interesting. It's got the guy from House in it, and it's got Uma
okay,
Thurman in it, so that's exciting.
from House, like Hugh Laurie.
No, the guy he plays Wilson,
I
Robert
I don't.
Sean Leonard.
I barely watched House.
See, it's called House because it's a take on Sherlock Holmes.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, because I think I've not even watched one entire episode of House.
Well, we should do a
Seen
house
snippets of it.
podcast.
It feels
And
like a
instead
long
of
time. No,
Watson, his partner's called Wilson,
Winston. Oh, Wilson.
and he's
Yeah.
House instead of Holmes.
Holmes.
And I
Okay.
think Moriarty turns up in one episode,
Wow.
but it's not sexy Moriarty from Stephen Moffat's Sherlock, Cumberbatch Sherlock's, the hot priest
Yeah.
from Fleabag. It's
Yes,
just
I know.
some random guy who turns up and
Interesting.
shoots House in the head. Spoiler alert for season 2 of
Oh,
House.
season 2. Nice.
It's the final episode. It's a good episode.
Okay,
I like House.
I'll take your word for it.
And Uma Thurman, interesting actor. I like the stuff she's in.
Yeah, I love Romantic. She does good, and she makes good choices usually when it comes to movies. So
So we'll
okay,
be back.
we'll see.
We'll see. Are you giving up? Has this made you give up on the
No,
podcast?
no, not on the podcast. The we'll see was I did say this movie made me lose hope even for the next one. So I think that was like we'll see. I hope it's not bad, but I'm not that. Usually I'm like yes, next one, ready to go. This one's like we'll see.
I
Mood is
have
still
to
out.
admit, I saw the trailer for this, and the trailer made it look interesting, and I
Okay,
was genuinely quite disappointed by what this turned out to be. So
there you
in
go.
terms of
Trailers can
expectations
deceive
versus
you.
reality, this is probably the worst one we've watched so far.
Is it the worst one I've watched so far?
Well, we'll do a
That
final
sounds.
episode where we rank all of them, so don't do any
Oh,
spoilers for that.
you just said it's the worst one. I
In
just
terms of
questioned.
expectations versus reality, because
All right,
I
okay,
kind of
okay.
knew what Slacker was, so I wasn't expecting there to be a plot to it. So when it was
Okay.
what it was, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected. But with this, I thought it might be good. I thought it'd be more Eternal Sunshine and less just navel gazing.
I didn't know what Slacker was when I started Slacker, and I didn't know what this was when I started this. But 20 minutes into this one, I was like, oh no, not Slacker again. So I think it's worse than Slacker because it felt like Slacker 2.0. So like I was being tortured again. So that's why it's worse because it's the second time you made me do this, Richard Linklater.
And as I said, it's
Yeah,
been almost a decade and 6 films since Slacker. You'd think he'd have grown up a bit, but
yeah,
it's the same thing with a gimmick that it's rotoscoped. And
yeah.
that wears pretty thin and just starts making you a bit nauseous after about 5
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, yep. That would also not be great if you're high.
Because you'd have to pay attention to the dialogue and you won't be able to hear it over all the Doritos you'd be eating.
Okay, I think we're rambling now. Is there
I
anything
think
else
we've
to
been
add?
rambling this entire time.
Rambling.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, so true.
Waking Life, the film.